How did you end up on this trip?
Because I don't know how to say no, and I'm a complete and utter prostitute for science.
Why do you think we invited you on this trip?
Because from what I understand of what you do, you're a sort of globe-trotting bunch of privileged but talented skiers who've probably got a bit of a guilty conscience about the amount of air miles and carbon footprint or something.
For me personally, I mean, I'd be lying if the bottom line isn't the skiing. I mean, the opportunity to come and see a place that very few people see, I mean, that's an opportunity that is really hard to say no to.
So it was pretty funny because when you guys told me, hey, do you want to go to Greenland? You know, that without even hesitating, like, oh yeah, of course I want to go. And then I step back and I think about it and I'm like, I don't know shit about Greenland.
None of us knew much about Greenland, except that the mountains are huge and that it's been in the news a lot lately due to climate change. Yet here we are, flying airplanes and helicopters to get here. Kaylin and Chris you've already met, but then there's Simon Thompson, a newly minted ski guide and our base camp manager, Pierre Muller, a mountain guide and doctor with 3 Greenland expeditions under his belt, Mike Douglas, a professional skier turned filmmaker, photographer Bruno Long, who almost missed the trip due to a recent family tragedy, and myself. I'm Anthony. We landed here in Tassilak on the east coast, hoping to be the first to ski Mount Forel, the second highest peak in Greenland. Given its remote location, very few people have been there, including climate scientists. With the logistics in place, we look to offset some of our guilt by bringing a scientist, which is how we came up with Alun.
What we're really interested in is what happens when you get these really big, off the scale, record warm summers. It seems like in the last 4 or 5, 6 years, there's some really dense ice layers forming under the snowpack in this accumulation zone, and they're kind of form a kind of impermeable barrier so that when we have a big melt year, the melt trickles down, hits this dense ice layer, and then starts to run off. And of course, anything that runs off the ice sheet ultimately ends up in the ocean and is feeding global sea level rise.
In order to determine whether these ice layers exist, Alun planned to drill 2 or 3 ice cores near Mount Forel. With that, we booked a helicopter and packed our skis. So yeah, Alun was right. But is that so bad?
Dum bum bum ba dum bum. Dum 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 ba dum bum bum.
Tiddalack?
In order to clear our conscience, we had originally hoped to use sled dogs for the 200-kilometer journey up to our Mount Forel base camp. But who would have thought that dogs would be more expensive than a helicopter? Keen to see what we were missing out on, we set off behind 87 farting and pooping dogs for an overnight mission to a small village on the other side of the mountains.
The dogs are really cute on the surface, but these dogs are just constantly pooping everywhere. And I mean, it wasn't exactly this like romantic dog sledding experience.
I mean, you're getting pulled by a bunch of dogs up a hill, like laying on this dog sled, and I don't know if I've ever felt as lazy as a human.
A remote hunting and fishing village, Tinnatiddalack sits crouched on the edge of Sermelik Fjord and is only accessible during the winter by sled or helicopter. A community of plus or minus 50, it's as remote an outpost as you can find, yet the youth enjoy many of the same pastimes as Western youth, including football and gangster rap culture. Each year, 30 gigatons of ice spill into the fjord en route to the open ocean. By starting at the end of the cycle and seeing these icebergs that began their journey up where we planned to base camp, brought the ice sheet to life as a living, moving entity.
We're in Sermelik Fjord in southeast Greenland, and it's home to one of the fastest, most productive outlet glaciers draining the Greenland ice sheet. It's called Helheim Glacier. It's one of the really big players in Greenland that have been draining the ice sheet, and over the last sort of 10 years, we've come to realize that the ice sheet as a whole is losing a lot more ice than it's gaining at the top. And that's quite a big deal, because it means that the Greenland ice sheet is contributing to global sea level rise, and that's pretty bad news for the planet.
Alun's authority on climate change comes through a quantitative understanding of the world. Our boat driver and musher, Tobias, on the other hand, derives his through a life on the land, ice, and sea as a hunter. If we needed further evidence of the rapid changes that Greenland is experiencing, we needed only to wait till our return journey to Tasselak. Overnight, the temperature spiked, marking this trip as a premature end to the season for these dogs. By the end of the week, the route up to the pass would no longer have snow. It might be April, but keep in mind, we're on the edge of the Arctic Circle. This wasn't quite what we had expected, but we hoped winter would still be holding up on the glacier. If an adventure truly begins when something goes wrong, then we had one on our hands when at the last minute our pilot informed us that he didn't have enough fuel to reach Mount Forel.
You guys are gonna go here, or you're not gonna go. That's what they told me.
Where can you fly us to?
It's 10 nautical miles.
Well, I mean, just if we can pay and it becomes possible, then we just pay. But if...
yeah, but that's the problem, because we don't have fuel here now. So I'm on the limit. I have 7-8 minutes.
You have no jerry cans?
No.
Not one?
Rather than being dropped at Mount Forel, the best they could do was 30 kilometers short and 1,000 vertical meters below our intended base camp. We would then have to move camp, and that was going to seriously jeopardize our chances of skiing Forel and getting Alun the ice core samples he needed.
No dice.
All right.
Eventually, we accepted our predicament. We would have to move literally a ton of gear up to Forel, and that was something we hadn't prepared for. It was far from ideal, but it was the only option we had.
If you have an issue with it, speak now or forever hold your peace.
On the whole ride here, I was thinking it's like if Alaska and Patagonia had a baby. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh my god, welcome to the most crevassed area I've ever been.
Are we gonna turn this into an alpine climbing movie?
Yeah.
Did you guys see the lines?
Did you bring your rock shoes?
Mind blown once again.
We have to give Air Greenland some credit. They said they weren't going to get us there, and they didn't.
I've got a good science plan that is based on being high up on the ice sheet in the accumulation zone. And unfortunately, the helicopter didn't quite make it, so we're about 1,000 meters too low We're on this pretty stunning outlet glacier that drains the Greenland ice sheet, but my science mission doesn't quite work. So we're off now to recce up the glacier here and to see if we can get a decent route to access the ice sheet.
If the truth be told, Alan really only committed to the trip when we promised him new skis, so he was pretty keen to try them out, and that suited us just fine.
It's so much bigger and has a lot more ice than I think any of us are used to. Every ski line was crampons, ice axe, screws, like we need all our gear. And it really kind of smacked us down a bit.
My goodness, let me tell you the news. My head's been wet with the midnight dew. I've been down on bended knee, talking to the man from Galilee. He spoke to me in a voice so sweet. I thought I heard the shuffle of angels' feet. There's only one thing to me, he said, do my bit until the river's red.
We just got a first view of Mount Coral back here. It's really hard to say if we're gonna be bringing our skis up there. Everything just has a lot of ice on it or has a serac above it. It's definitely pretty full on here.
This trip was full on mountaineering. I felt like I was using my skills right to the maximum. If I'd come here like 3-4 years ago, I don't know what I would have done, to tell you the honest truth.
This was not the problem that I thought I'd have in Greenland, but it's way too hot. You get on these faces and it's just roasting.
It's hot. It's very hot.
In the bigger picture, how's this make you feel?
In the bigger picture, it's very bad news for the Greenland ice sheet. This is pretty crazy. It's Greenland, we're north of the Arctic Circle, it's the ice sheet, we must be at 1,700 meters, maybe a bit more, and it's just balmy. And that's really scary for April. That's really nuts.
How are we meant to take you seriously when you look like that?
Seriously? Who said anything about taking me seriously? I don't think there's a person on the planet who takes me seriously.
Don't let Alan's self-deprecating modesty fool you. As a professor at Aberystwyth and Tromsø universities, he has over 100 published academic papers and was part of the BBC Frozen Planet series. Having led multi-million-dollar scientific expeditions to Greenland and Antarctica funded by universities and research institutes, joining a ragtag bunch of skiers did seem like a bit of a backward step. That is, until we saw this photo.
I used to dream of this kind of trip. So for me, it works brilliantly. What I've got to do is try and seek legitimacy with my colleagues who obviously will think I'm a laughing stock. So, but them. It's the height of Ben Nevis, I think.
Yeah.
And I can climb that with a hangover.
What are you doing, Simon?
Well, we had a hole develop here yesterday, and just got home and put my foot through this other hole right here. Yeah, we have a crevasse issue in our entrance.
What do you feel?
I don't know, I'm just... Oh! He's got me! He's got me! Dude! It's kind of cool. We're on a moving glacier. This spot here has probably moved a millimeter since we got here.
You don't know that. You're so full of it.
Personally, I think we hit a warm spell, and that's what it is. It's a heat wave, and it happens every year. Somewhere gets record high temps.
I mean, I think that would be fairly short-sighted to to go somewhere for a week and, you know, we all get abnormal temperatures. I don't think it's like particularly changed my view on climate change. I'd say that it's quite strange how warm it is.
The weather we've experienced here whilst being in Greenland the last week, to my mind, is exceptional. I've been coming to Greenland for about 15 years and seriously monitoring melt and the flow of the ice sheet for 10 years, and this is completely off the scale in my experience, right? And if this continues, 2016 will be off the scale, and you can't keep breaking records like this, or if you do, then, you know, the ice sheet and the outlet glaciers, they just can't sustain, they can't survive under this onslaught of warming.
Despite the outlook and being unable to carry out the sciencey plan because of a lack of snow, Alun remained upbeat and set out to conduct some drone surveys to capture high-resolution panoramic images of the glaciers in Mount Forel. If the technology was high-tech, it certainly didn't look like it.
The very Heath Robinson Mad Max X20 UAV or drone. We're programming it now to hopefully have a bit of a reconnaissance and a survey over Mount Forel and our access routes to it. Like the best of British glaciology, it's held together with duct tape. 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, it just comes off. 2, 1. So hold it there, right? Hold it there, yep. Right?
Alun, what did you do?
So you're feeling the wind going that way? And I've managed to rewire the motor so that it's rotating the wrong way. That's a bit stupid. All right, okay, back to the drawing board.
We figured the best way for us to launch it was for me to ski down with it, and then when I got fast enough, just chuck it.
Your arm forward, and make sure you follow through on your arm. Don't leave it up there, right? It won't get you if you just let your hand drop.
Any safety issues?
Well, I mean, the biggest safety issue really is the fact that I'm going out of camp without a rope. So I'm really hoping to not fall in a crevasse. But as far as this goes, I think I'll be fine. I got faith in Alun. I got faith in science.
Rock on, Rubens.
Yep. My finger! It's a science wound. I didn't launch perfectly, but we got it up.
We launched her, but at 2 o'clock, just after 2. It's now 4 o'clock, and she had enough juice for about an hour and a half's flight, and sadly she has not returned. I'm a bit sad. It would be nice, really cool to have got that data, but not this time.
With the disappearance of the drone and weather preventing us from moving up to Forel, our big science mission was quickly becoming just another ski trip, and even then we didn't have much to show for it. After almost a week, we had yet to reach the top of a single line, and if we had eyes for skiing Forel, we'd need to get comfortable on ice.
Are you gonna go to the top?
I don't know. I mean, I want to, but it looks really steep up there. Yeah, there's only like a foot here. Three, 2, 1, dropping.
You.
If that was anything to go by, Forel was going to be a monumental challenge. There was little bandwidth to dwell on it though, as back in camp, things were falling apart.
So, the middle tent crevasse from the other day seems to be widening a bit. We see further development here, opening, widening crack, running right under Anthony's thermarest. The kitchen ended up being, we found out today, above a massive crevasse, way bigger than we imagined.
Right now I'm in a huge crevasse that, believe it or not, is right underneath camp. The tent where we've been cooking water and melting and whatnot is just above us, just here. You can actually hear people digging and walking. So the verdict is we're gonna have to move camp.
It is pretty entertaining that you felt like you needed to be tied together at our base camp, that the crevasse rescue scenarios would happen at our base camp, our one little safe zone.
So we're gonna move this tent from this crevasse and put it over here above this crevasse, over here. I'm kind of scared to inspect that one now.
If these temperatures continue, we're going to be fairly trapped here, I've got a feeling. So our little mission to get up onto the ice cap and recover these ice cores, that's going to have to happen pretty fast.
Today is the day. We're going to Mount Forel. That was our original base camp, and we've got some super heavy polkas, but this is why we came here, so I think we're all pretty excited to get up there.
Should be fun. Once we get there.
We packed as much as we could pull and hoped it would be enough. We left the rest to pick up later and began the 30-kilometer march to the base of Mount Forel and hopefully a location that suited Alun's science.
Yeah, we're up here. This is the ice cap. That's Mount Forel. That's the nice easy ridge that we thought we could climb up.
Hours later, 1,200 meters higher, we're now on the western buttress of Mount Forel. And there's the ice plateau over there. A very, very different place to where we've been camped. It's certainly a lot colder. And to be absolutely honest, I'm completely blooming knackered.
This is awesome. I mean, that was a hell of a slog. A lot of walking, heavy weight, but it was worth it because this right here is like unlike anything any of us have ever seen, so worth it.
When we got up there, it was like, okay, this is Greenland. Like, this is really what it's all about. This is what I was expecting.
We had these like gnarly mountains and Nunatak sticking out everywhere, and then just this like total flat expanse of the ice cap. And I mean, I've just never seen anything even close to it in my life. It's kind of like looking out over the ocean where you just have one flat horizon line. It's super unique and super powerful, I think.
Sometimes hard to distinguish between the horizon and whether it's ice or sky. You see this blue color all the time that looks like the sky or looks like the ocean, and it's really hard to tell because the perspective isn't there.
It's just stunning. It's such a remarkable island, a huge island. It's massive, you know, the ice sheet is 6 times the size of the UK, and its latitudinal spread is huge. And even though we tend to think of it mostly as an ice sheet, there are some amazing landmass of terra firma. The geology is just stunning, and as a result you get these beautiful landscapes. You know, this is a really unexplored, untrodden wilderness. I guess for me it represents freedom. Freedom from day-to-day dealing with the modern world and with that escape, but also a sort of simplicity of living, and I'm actually incredibly happy up here and find a sort of sense of, I don't know, meaning, I suppose. I just feel like it's a worthwhile endeavour that is just very addictive.
What's the longest you've spent out here on the ice cap?
2.5, 3 months.
Do you miss home at all?
Yes and no. I mean, I love it up here, but I sure miss my children, my kids.
Alan coming on this trip, you know, he's a scientist, but, you know, I think at the end of the day, he's completely in it for the exact same reasons that we are, and that's that pure love of being out in the mountains and enjoying them, that it really resonates with him.
We're coring snow down to the ice with Alan here. And yeah, it's pretty neat, really. I mean, we're down, this is the 7th meter we're down, so, I mean, that's a pretty long ways. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's good actually to be finally doing some science. So we've got the system pretty well sorted out here. It's a production line. Rubens is doing the coring. I'm getting the core, cutting it up and basically measuring its volume and weight to get its density of the different layers in here. Then we're cutting this up, bagging it, passing it to Kaylin there, who's melting it and then bottling it. Those 100 milliliter bottles will be then refrozen and then brought back to Europe, where they'll be sent off for processing for isotopes, ions, geochemistry, and also looking for particulates in there, particularly carbon. So,
if you're wondering what isotopes and ions are, you're not alone. Put simply, Alan's ice cores would help determine if the ice sheet around Mount Forel is melting, and if so, how will that melt affect sea level rise?
It's going very well. Super pleased with the quality of the core, and it's really neat that we've been hitting regelation ice or glacier ice at 8-9 meters, so that's quite a big result. So pretty stoked actually. It's gone well.
Is that like matching your expectation?
I've got a hypothesis about the origin of this ice layer here that I was hoping to get, and so it's pretty neat I've got it.
You know, coming here, I mean, the baseline for me is definitely the skiing, and having that opportunity to go into these mountains that very few people have gone into. I think the part that really caught me off guard was seeing the ice cap, and I've just never really seen anything like that. And then talking with Alan about that possibility that it might significantly change in the next few years is a pretty crazy thought, and it's really cool to be able to see it as it is right now. One of the big objectives on this trip was Mount Forel, and really to ski it. You know, on Google Earth and a couple photos that we'd seen, it looked like there's some amazing ski lines.
When we finally saw her in all her glory, it quickly became a mountaineering objective.
There was just ice everywhere. There's nothing skiable off of it, and we circled around all the different aspects and decided on the West Ridge would be the safest way to get up there with a group of people with very limited mountaineering gear.
Mountaineering is definitely something I've never done, at least winter mountaineering. But internally, I wanted to go.
I'm definitely up for the challenge, so let's do it.
Really doing it. Coral. Here we come. You forgot your skis?
Yeah. Well, look what we aim for.
We might not have had skis, but Alan had one final task for us, and it required standing on top. Not to mention, this was better than sitting in camp.
You look off your right shoulder and you just see these massive mountains and huge glaciers, and then you look off your left and it's just like the flat ice cap, nothing. Like, kind of hard to concentrate on climbing sometimes because you got distracted by the views.
Oh, that was awesome.
You can see the view does not suck. So, yeah, loving it.
Happy you came?
So happy I came.
We're in one of the most insane places I've ever been.
Since we only had enough gear for 5 people to climb Mount Forel, that meant 3 were left in base camp. Alan, however, wasn't content to sit and wait for our return.
Well, those softies go for the second-hand ascent over there. We're heading up here for a badass ascent of some unclimbed, possibly even unseen by the human eye, peaks that have newly emerged from the ice sheet. We're going to head over there, do a little look-see, have a little recce around, and while I'm at it, I'm going to dig a few snow pits and probe around looking for our next ice core site. Pretty badass, eh?
As a retaliatory gesture, Alan, Mike, and Bruno set their sights on a Nunatak that, due to climate change, has only recently emerged from the ice sheet and likely not seen the light of day for thousands of years. Despite 2 weeks of adjusting to the scale of this place, what they thought was relatively close turned into a 40-kilometer round trip. Ironically, it took them longer to summit their 10-meter behemoth than the time it took to climb Forel.
You got your protection?
No, we're going on rope.
Are you leading the first pitch?
Yeah, we're just free climbing.
This is desperate. Lucky I've got my ski pole. Oi. Brother. How many first ascents is this?
3 weeks before the trip, Bruno's sister Julie lost her battle with brain and breast cancer at the age of 42. In her memory, Alan suggested they name their new discovery Julie's Peak.
Can't think of a better place than in this beautiful area to maybe spread a few of her ashes.
Julie's Peak.
Yeah, so Julie's Peak.
Says it all.
Yeah.
This view is spectacular. You know, the whole time we've been talking about how big this area is, and this just makes you feel even smaller.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Alan's final task for us was to record the first accurate height of Mount Forel using a geodetic GPS. Once the numbers were in, Forel stands at 3,396 meters, 36 meters higher than previously mapped. Photo light testing on a rock sample from Julie's Peak strengthened Alan's claims of a first ascent. The results revealed it emerged from the glacier in the last 30 years and is further evidence of just how quickly the ice sheet is changing.
This spot here has probably moved a millimeter since we got here.
Simon wasn't even close. Using the same GPS before and after, Alan calculated camp had moved 16 meters during our trip, averaging more than a meter per day. As for Alan's ice cores, the data collected confirm his hypothesis that refrozen melt layers are forming at high elevations of the ice sheet and causing increased runoff. Essentially, This means that sea levels are rising faster than expected, which isn't cool.
Best time of your life!
Finally, did we manage to allay our guilty conscience? Well, it's hard to know. And no matter what we say, you were always going to be the judge of that.